All right, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that we are live. Now, you all know how My Hero Academia streams tend to be. They tend to be a bit shorter than my One Piece streams, and I'm not going to be reacting to today's episode of One Piece because it's basically just a recap of Odin's life, and you've already seen my reaction to those episodes specifically. So there's no real need for me to make a One Piece reaction to episodes that I have already seen in the past, and they're just, compiled together in one episode. So I'm only going to stick to, the actual episodes themselves. But let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way. And I almost forgot to get rid of my background. My apologies. Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome. Wow, I am bright. I am very bright there. Sorry, had to turn that down. Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another My Hero Academia chapter reaction and review. Good to see everyone here. Good to see you, Random Boy, and Midoriya Shonen. Good to see you all here as well. It is a momentous Sunday because this is my last week at my current job before I start running this channel full time. And I'm excited because I am so excited because I've been looking forward to this moment for so very long. At first I felt nervous. At first I felt nervous that I was actually going to be going through with this. But now, the more I think about it, the more hype I get because now I know I'll no longer after I'm done with my last 4 days, I won't have to worry about an alarm being set at night in order for me to wake up and work overnights and lose sleep. And then my whole sleep clock schedule gets messed up. Or, oh, I can't stream today because I worked long last night and I got to push it forth another day. No more of that. I'm happy. I'm just humbled and happy. Good to see you as well, Psycho. Let's go and get this chapter started. And it doesn't look like we're going on break. Congrats on the full time and the shout out on Rogers. Keep on growing. We love what you do. Thank you, Looney Scorpion. Sometimes I'm just taken aback by some of you guys' names because some of you guys got some real sick names like Looney Scorpion and Psycho Ghost Rider. And of course, Midoriya Shonen, Random Boy. All these names, and they just, it's just like, there is never two of the same people that pop up on my channel. But I'll save my talks for different streams because I'll definitely have streams where it's just me talking to you guys. Just talking in the future. But for right now, we need to focus on My Hero. Chapter 357, just a bit of a recap from the last chapter. All for One's mask was completely shattered and he was gasping for air. He got fed up and upset that his own quirks in his body were rebelling against him. And he came to the realization that maybe this is happening because I'm using a synthetic copy of my original quirk. Maybe that's the reason. And so it had a picture of his mindscape where he was, subjugating his quirks in his body, or it looks like he was grabbing onto them and he had like a giant mouth and he was trying to eat them, or I don't know, trying to bring them under control. And then he pretty much his body just erupted with those black and red tendrils that can skewer people. He used those same ones to grab all the pieces from his destroyed mask and pull it back to himself as a rudimentary way of keeping his mask going. And then he continued to try and, it came to a point where it looked like he was about to attack Hawks, Jiro, and Tokoyami, but then Endeavor shows up and takes the brunt of the attack and proceeds to, try and fight him. And in the process, it appears that Endeavor also loses his arm as well. And then we get a little bit of Endeavor's backstory where we found out that he lost his father who was trying to save a little girl, and how he had like this inferiority complex and how he felt like he just needed to be better than All Might in his past. We just saw a little bit of Endeavor's history, which was good because we needed that character development from him. But now we begin with chapter 357, Wounded Hero, Burning Bright and True. And this is after Endeavor punched All for One. Now, mind you, he punched All for One after All for One ripped off his arm. He still punched him with the stump of his arm, engulfed in flames, and punched All for One with it. And it shows Endeavor, it shows the aftermath of All For One being pushed back, and then he has like a little shield in front of him, and he's thinking, that was a close one. Actual damage. I knew you'd come at me hard, but I never expected that the likes of you would make me relive the pain and misery of that day. So he's saying that Endeavor punched him with enough force and enough drive and enough feeling to remind him of his last fight with All Might. He's getting reminded of his last fight with All Might and when All Might United States have smashed him. So that, it shows you Endeavor's going full in on this right now. Wounded heroes are always the scariest. And in Endeavor, ooh, my goodness. If you guys want to see what I'm seeing, either go to the official Viz Shonen Jump site or whichever side of your choice, Manga Plus, don't care. But it shows Endeavor in this beautifully drawn panel where it shows him gearing up for a punch, even though he's missing the rest of his arm. The flames take the shape of the punch he wants to make. And then it shows like either fire coming out of his mouth, the whites of his eyes is just blank. And then in the next panel, it shows Endeavor directly in the face of All For One like, oh, you done messed up now, son. But he's directly in front of All For One. And this surprises him. Endeavor's already got his fist balled up. And he's right in front of All For One, and All For One is all like, ah. And then it shows that Endeavor was actually, his speed was boosted thanks to Hawks' feathers. Hawks put some feathers on his back and then pushed him forward to give him that extra speed to just literally blitz All For One in front. And Hawks is saying, you're too slow. Vanishing jet burn! And then from the sky, all we see is just this ginormous pillar of fire just erupt downwards that everyone sees it. Yikes, that's hot! Endeavor? I thought the plan was to finish him off way up high! And then Hawk says, wasn't that the right moment for a prominence burn? And then Endeavor says, no, didn't you see him go on the defensive? And that's not a move I can fire off multiple times. I've got to physically rip apart his defenses to be sure the big one hits its mark. So Endeavor's actually thinking cool-headedly now. And Hawks goes, keeping a cool head, huh? And then Endeavor then just jets downwards towards where he hit All For One going, no, I can't hold back this rage. Then it shows All For One who's like on the ground, but he's making a shield over himself. And then everyone's looking around, seeing All For One as Kamui Woods is there going, it's All For One. Everyone, retreat! And then Kamui Woods is grabbing as many heroes as he can because he knows what's coming. Why? Here's our chance to bum rush him. And then he gets pulled up by Kamui Woods as Endeavor comes down hard on All For One, launching everyone who was close by backwards. And then it shows that All For One is using the shield to protect himself from Endeavor, trying his best to. And it shows Endeavor going full force on top. Yo, Endeavor. This is the most heroic we have ever seen Endeavor. We've seen him do heroic things, but this is the most heroic. The most hero-like. Not the motivation of trying to be better than All Might and be the number one hero, so he can prove that he's better than All Might. This is Endeavor being a hero because that's what heroes do. That's what I'm getting from this entire, because we've seen him do all sorts of different attacks, but this is the moment where he's attacking with the full force of, above all else, I'm going to bring this man down because that's what a hero does. That's the vibe I'm getting from this extra source of extra feeling of power from Endeavor. And Kamui Woods says, above all else, Endeavor's coming through. And then it shows Endeavor breaking through All For One's shield and grabbing him. He broke through his shield. He burned right through All For One's shield and is now grabbing him. And then he screams out loud, and then it shows Endeavor drag. Yo, Endeavor! Endeavor has All for One. And then using more of his flames, speeds off, dragging All for One through the ground. The swarming gnats cracked my mask, and now my body won't move as I command. But at this range, he's within my reach. And it's like All for One wants to try and take his quirk from him, but Endeavor shoots fire out of his eyes and burns All for One's hand so he can't touch him. He shoots fire out of his eyes. What? He shoots fire out of his eyes, and he burns All for One's hand completely. Those hands of yours ruin people's lives. And then All for One goes, you know a thing or two about that. And Endeavor goes, no, you're right. My mistakes took form as Toya, leading to so many stolen futures. The past never dies. Rage, resentment, and even penance are wound together towards the future. And it shows Endeavor then launching into the air, holding on to All for One. And then we get an outside view as Jiro and Tokoyami are airborne, but they see Endeavor in the distance, but you see his flame getting even bigger. And the future is a path for the young, a path with so many branching choices. That's why I must win this, so that when those kids walk that path, my past won't stand in their way. And linked prolifically here, shown prolifically here, is he thinking of Shoto as he's walking towards all of his friends. I'll keep paying my penance. I'll win today and keep my eyes on Toya. I'll keep raging against myself. And then it shows him holding on tightly to Endeavor as they both erupt into massive flames. And then it shows All for One has been seared down to his skin, like he's charred black. We already confirmed that he doesn't have hyper regeneration. Even if he did and were keeping it a secret without a durable body like Shigaraki's, he's still a dead man. And then Hawk says, get away from him, Endeavor! And then All for One says, did you really think I'd casually saunter up to the big finale empty-handed? This body had already served its purpose, and it was destined for the scrap heap anyway. So why not try this out? And then, for some odd reason, it cuts to a shot of Eri and the quirk-canceling drug. What did he do? Heroes don't have a monopoly on big sacrificial moments, you know. Villains are also scariest when wounded. And then it cuts to, wow, what is going on with All for One? And why does he have an eye? Why does he have an eye? I thought he didn't have eyes. Well, it shows the charred face of All for One, but it shows an eye as part of him starts cracking around it. I can't tell if what just happened? Heroes don't have a monopoly on big sacrificial moments, you know. And then it cuts to first user Yoriichi as he's talking to Midoriya, going, Midoriya, I've got a bad feeling about this. Ah, the first, what is it? And then it shows something in the distance as Midoriya is flying full force ahead. And Midoriya can only say, what's that? So something is directly in front of him. He's flying over the ocean right now at full speed, but something's directly in front of him. What did All for One do to himself? Yo, hold up. Think he's referring to his first fight with All Might in their prime, not Kamino. The first fight is where All For One's trauma is concentrated. Oh, okay, I see. He is rewinding because of Ares' quirk DNA. I feel like, I think that's what it is. Because I was thinking to myself, maybe that was a quirk-canceling drug. But given that it's All For One, I believe he would take that a step further and try and reverse himself. So if this is All For One reversing his body, if this is All For One reversing his body thanks to Ares' quirk, does that mean he's regaining his former... Yo, what? What? That rivet stab panel and Endeavor spread was too fire. I think he's... Okay, notice the regrown ear. Because it looks like... It really does look like he's reversing. Like his ear is coming back and regenerating. Because if you go to previous panels and we look at the face of All For One, let me find it. He doesn't have any ears. But here, in the last panel, his ear returns. This man is regenerating his body. Does this mean we're finally going to see what All For One's face actually looks like in its entirety? Because if this is him regenerating his entire face back to where it was, then them destroying his mask meant absolutely nothing in the long run, because he wasn't... Because I feel like ideas are forming. His eye was covered up as well. Exactly! His eyes were completely covered. He had no nose. He had no way to breathe properly. He had no ears. Just... all of this was just completely covered. All you had was a mouth, and that was it. And he had trouble breathing because of it. So that's why he needed the mask with tubes going through his mouth. But if his body is rewinding, then... Oh, this is bad. This is actually really bad. We already have a rough idea of All For One's face and recall of his past with Yoichi. Yes, it was just in shadow. Like, his eyes were just the only part of him that were in shadow. And I'm pretty sure a couple of people could envision what his face looked like without the shadow. But to see his face get fully regenerated back to where it was like 100 years ago. Because mind you, this dude has been alive since quirks first existed. So to see his face in his prime, is that the direction we're going in? That's the Majin Buu regeneration? All For One's face revealed to be Deku's dad! That'd be messed up if it was. We just might get Prime All For One. His eye and ears are coming back. That's the thing. That is so bad. This is so bad. Because the thing was, All For One had numerous quirks in his body just to supplement the fact that he had no visual and auditory senses. But now, if he's getting his original face back, those limitations are going to be null now. He's going to be able to... I think we just ran into the worst possible scenario. I thought Shigaraki was a massive threat due to him overcoming the quirk. What is it? The quirk... what is it? Doomsday? The quirk Doomsday theory, I believe it was, where his body started to morph in a way where it becomes superhuman, but without it being classified as a quirk. But now we're getting All For One and his face and body slowly rewinding back to when he had eyes, ears, and a nose, basically giving him his whole face back. We need Prime All Might at this point. Is the only way I see them getting through both All For Ones. Dude, this is scary. This is scary because we have two All For One quirks active. All Shigaraki has access to all of All For One's quirk, and All For One has a copy of his original quirk with all those other quirks in him. So there's 2 All For Ones out there right now. But one of them is slowly transcending into a higher form than he already was. And he's dealing with Bakugo and Best Jeanist in the Floating Fortress of UA right now. But now it looks like we're going to be dealing with an All For One who is going to be regenerating his body back to his prime. And the thing is, Endeavor looked like he just used Prominence Burn. And what we know of Prominence Burn is that it burns a lot of his energy. Like, even when he used Prominence Burn against High End, he was incredibly tired after using it. There's only so much he can do with his flames before he uses up all his stamina. And now he's used this Prominence Burn on All For One, and it looks like All For One is just now regenerating his entire body back to where it used to be before his final fight with All Might. Wait, so All For One won't need the mask anymore? Exactly. That's exactly what this means. If this is All For One regenerating, thanks to Aries' quirk being used into bullets, if he's able to regenerate and rewind his body back to his prime, he doesn't need the mask. Wait, so All For One won't need the mask? That's the Majin Buu regeneration. We already have a rough idea. My bet is he augmented the quirk restoring bullets, which Overhaul developed as a cure for his quirk erasing ones. Maybe he reworked them to restore his body instead of quirk factor. That's the only reason why they mentioned Eri and paid homage to Eri. Because her quirk is playing a part in this. Even though she doesn't know it, her quirk, from the very beginning, I remember when people were saying, like, if Aries' quirk is able to rewind stuff, then what about her being able to rewind All Might back to before he got that massive injury that nerfed him? Now we are seeing the extent of what that quirk can do on people. Because, I mean, we already got a tease about her being able to restore people's bodies back to where they were before when Mirio returned. If you remember, Mirio came in during the fight with Shigaraki when he woke up and he started fighting everyone, and Mirio came back and his, what is it called? Permeation quirk. He came back and his permeation quirk was restored because Eri had better control under her powers, which gave way to thinking if she's able to restore a quirk of someone who lost their quirk previously, then who's to say she can't restore someone further? But given how All For One didn't have access to Eri, I imagine that he reverse engineered the quirk erasing drug that was created and then made it so that it could restore his body back. Prime All For One is so hype. It's also so scary, Midoriya. It's also really scary because Prime All For One could only be beaten by users of One for All. And even then, when All Might beat him, Prime All Might beat Prime All For One, they both left those grievous injuries with one another. All For One had his entire upper half, his ears, and everything else just completely destroyed. And All Might, he had his entire midsection, like half of his midsection, just completely gored through, and it massively nerfed how long he could stay in his, muscle form. But now, we could be dealing with a Prime All For One with no Prime All Might to match him. Now, not saying that Midoriya is not the Prime All Might that we need, but Midoriya is way out on the ocean right now, and even Yoriichi can sense his brother coming back. Because he literally comes out of Midoriya and he's all like, Midoriya, I got a bad feeling about this. All For One used cheap tactics though, but still Deku only has the faux Fajin. But yeah, All For One used cheap tactics though, but still Deku only has faux Fajin. But Yoriichi can sense his brother's malice, and he knows that I got a bad feeling about this, as if to say, my brother is fully coming back. I don't know how, but my brother is back. He can sense his brother from way out into the ocean. So he knows that something bad is about to happen. Every single time, and I say this every time we have some of these chapters when it comes to My Hero, every single time it looks like the heroes are having a big, massive, impactful moment, the villains come back even bigger. I say this I've been saying this ever since I started this series, that one thing I like about Horikoshi and his writing is that he doesn't just give the heroes the big moments every time, he gives the villains big moments every time as well. And it goes back and forth. Every time the heroes every time the heroes tip the scales in their favor, the villains come back and start to tip it in their favor. And then the heroes come back and tip it in their favor. And it's that give and take, it's just every single time. But this time is quite possibly the most threatening moment that is happening. Because if it is All For One coming back to his prime, where he's no longer beyond damage where regeneration couldn't bring his face back. Because the only reason why, even though they found a hyper regeneration quirk in the past, his face was too cauterized for them to regenerate it back to where it used to be. So the hyper regeneration would have been useless to him. But now we are having All For One apparently bringing his entire body back to where it was before All Might. This is the worst case scenario. Shigaraki's no longer the biggest threat. All For One is. Prime All For One is the biggest threat. Theory: Deku saves Shigaraki's heart, leading him to fight and decay All For One before ending his own life. Seems kind of heavy, but then My Hero has never been one to shy away from incredibly heavy moments. I mean, remember the hospital full of children that All For One was going to turn into his own vessels? This story is not afraid of getting dark, so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't put that theory past me. But this is scary, okay? We've already seen the type of things that All For One can do. All right, I was just talking to my family there. It would save Deku from having to kill someone himself. I mean, yeah, when you think about it, Midoriya is not the type that would just see killing another person as a viable option. He's just not that type of person. He's not the person that is just, he's not the type of person that would just say, you know, we got to do what we got to do. It has to be done. He's never been that type of person that thought that killing another individual would be what leads to peace. He's never been that type of person. But we just got to see where things go from here. But hold on. I gotta All For One. This is scary. This is really scary. This man is regenerating his face back. Hold on, let me go to the synopsis. I wonder, did they update it today? Because I want to go over this chapter. I really want to go over this chapter. And see what, like, the small tidbits say. Okay, let me go to chapter 57. I want to take a little bit of extra time because I don't have anything else planned today except for playing Sifu for you guys. But I want to take this time to go over this chapter. Okay, summary. All For One manages to barely protect himself as Endeavor's fiery assault continues to consume him. He thinks about how he never He thinks about how he knew he might go hard on him, but never expected Endeavor would be the one to make him relive the pain he had when he originally faced All Might, reminding himself wounded heroes are always the scariest. Thanks to Hawk's wings pushing Endeavor forward, he's able to catch All For One off guard, unleashing a vanishing jet burn, blasting All For One downwards onto the Gunga Mountain. On the ground, the heroes are surprised by the attack. While in the air, Hawks asks Endeavor why he didn't finish him off with Prominence Burn. Endeavor remarks that he had his guard up, and since he can't use it as many times as he wants, he needs to break through his defenses to ensure it connects. Endeavor blasts himself downwards after All For One, causing Kamui Woods and the remaining heroes to flee and get out of the way of their incoming rampage. Endeavor grabs All For One, dragging him all throughout the forest. Due to his mask being destroyed and his body not listening to him, All For One tries to grab Endeavor and steal his quirk, but he proceeds to shoot fire from his eyes, burning his hand. Endeavor states that all his hands do is ruin people's futures, to which All For One claims he does too, with Endeavor agreeing. So you're not gonna, Endeavor's past the point of All For One mentally manipulating him. He's all like, yep, I got it, I'm bad, but I'm gonna beat you down while I'm bad. He thinks about how Toya is the result of his mistakes and led to many stolen futures. He declares that since the future is the path for the youth, he will win this so that the past won't get in the way of their future. Endeavor says he will keep paying his penance so he can keep looking after Toya. After all the while, his rage continues to burn, blasting All For One with a Prominence Burn. Holding his crisp remains, he thinks about how they already confirmed he doesn't have any hyper regeneration. But even if he did, there's no surviving that attack without a body like Tomura's. But then Hawks cries out to Endeavor to get away. All For One suddenly begins to speak, asking if he believed he would show up to the big battle empty-handed. With his body having served its purpose and destined to be scrapped anyway, he decides to test something out as images of Eri and the quirk-destroying drug begin to appear. As an eye and an ear emerge from his body with a grinning smile, All For One asks what makes him think heroes were the only ones to make sacrificial moments, and that villains are also scariest when wounded. Elsewhere, Yoichi Shigaraki senses something amiss and contacts the still soaring Deku, telling him he has a bad feeling, as several figures from the distance begin to make their way over to him. So the big takeaway notes here is Endeavor continues to assault on All For One, blasting him down through the Gunga Mountain. He declares to make up for his mistakes, he will put an end to All For One so that the youth will have a better future. Endeavor uses Prominence Burn and appears to kill All For One. However, All For One not only survives, but suddenly begins to regrow his eyes and ears, seemingly thanks to the quirk Restoring Drug. And Yoichi senses a disturbance in the force as several unknown figures speed towards Deku. Kyushu the GOAT, you are way too kind. You are way too kind. But I hope you enjoyed yourself while you were here all the same. All For One bypassed the quirk singularity as well, given he was so damaged that he couldn't completely harness all of his quirks with the backlash. This is scary. We are getting All For One is restoring his body. Because here's the thing, if All For One did not have this quirk restoring drug, all Endeavor would have killed him. This is basically just telling us that Endeavor would have killed All For One right here and there if All For One wasn't prepared. But given what we know of All For One, this dude never goes anywhere without a plan. Even if his plan has a small, minute scale of succeeding, he plans ahead. He even plans for just in case the heroes succeed. This dude always has a contingency. And now this contingency is trying out restoring his body back to where it was before, as he's regrowing his eyes and ears again. Prime All For One is coming back. I thought Shigaraki was the big threat, but All For One has just cemented himself as, yeah, don't sweep me under the rug quite yet just because I'm using a synthetic copy of my quirk. I'm not done yet. We're getting Prime All For One. We're not ready. We're not ready. But this chapter does not go on break either, so I'm looking forward to next week's chapter. All in all, this was a great read. I enjoyed it. This was a great read. And, well, you're going to be seeing a lot more My Hero Academia in the coming Sundays because One Piece, why was I about to call it One for All? One Piece is still on break until July, till like the middle of July, near the end of the July, actually. So just expect a lot more My Hero Academia. And expect a lot more streams in the future, especially after this upcoming Friday, because then you guys are just going to have me all day, every day. It's going to be great, but I'm looking forward to it. Overall, great chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Completely terrified of what this means for everyone who is present there now that All For One is going to have his entire body back again. This is scary. This is worst possible scenario, but I'm also enjoying this read. So that's all I got. That's all I got. Let me go ahead and make some food for myself. The editor got changed, and you see that in the paneling. Yeah, you can definitely see it here. The whole atmosphere just shifted. You can really tell. The art was so good, especially the moment where it showed Endeavor before he punches All For One. It shows him swirling up fire in place of his missing arm. That panel right there was the pinnacle of artistry right there. That and All For One's charred face, but regenerated eye and ear, and he's just smiling with this manic look on his face. Like he was the truth from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It was great. Fantastic chapter to be here live for, so hype for next week. Thanks for the reaction, and congrats on full time. Thank you, Midoriya Shonen. I am just grateful that I am stepping out and doing this for myself, because I'm never going to be completely 100% happy unless I'm doing what I love to do and not just working a job just simply because it pays. Because if I am not truly happy 100% in what I'm doing, then I shouldn't be doing it. Regardless, doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. If I'm not happy doing what I love to do, if I'm not happy doing what I'm doing now instead of what I love to do, then it's not something I should be doing. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I got a loving family who supports me in this decision, and everyone else who's outside of my family who knows that I'm doing this, because I haven't fully announced it yet to a lot of people. But those who know, they're proud of me. And that's all that I really need at the end of the day. But great chapter. Let me stop rambling your ears off before this hit 40 minutes, because I got to go eat. Everyone else has gone to eat. Sisters went out to eat. Mom and dad went out to eat. So it's just me here with Kenzo. But I got to go get myself something to eat. And then afterwards, once I'm rested a little bit more, expect a Sifu stream, because I really want to get through this game. But it's all I got. All I can say at the end of the day is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, and maybe even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples. I gotta clip my nails. That's disgraceful. I can't do that again. I can never allow my nails to get like that again.